UFC Fight Night Cannonier vs Imavov has just taken place, with Dom Reyes finally getting back in the win column, Imavov with a controversial decision, and Carlos Prates hitting Charles Radtke in the liver so badly he will never drink again. So in this video, I'll be giving you a recap of every single fight on the card and all the best moments on the card, kicking it off with the first fight of Rayanne dos Santos versus Puja Tomar. Now, when it came to the kickboxing range, Tomar was doing a pretty good job. She landed some nice teep kicks, and she was using the front leg side kick. That was 100% her best weapon in this fight. And she did have the speed advantage over dos Santos. But when it came to dos Santos, the power and the forward pressure and just who came out better in the exchanges was dos Santos. Dos Santos was landing much better strikes in their exchanges, much heavier strikes, and I will give it to Tomar. Her chin held up very well, but even though dos Santos landed less strikes, she definitely did more damage overall, and she should have won this fight, I think. I did have her going I honestly had her 30-27 in this fight. And I think dos Santos only made like 2 mistakes realistically. She didn't shoot more. Yeah, she had 3 of her takedowns stuffed, but she should have shot more and got the fight to the ground. Because as we've seen, as I mentioned in the predictions, when it comes to Tomar against higher competition, she's just not that great on the ground. She struggles. She struggles with that grappling area. And that was shown in that Stan Fairtex fight. And dos Santos, with her submission capabilities, I think that she could have actually got the finish there, and that's why I went with dos Santos via submission. But she just didn't utilize it enough, and that just goes against her completely. And she also, when it came to the feet, she didn't cut off the cage enough. Tomar continuously was able to circle out every single time, and dos Santos was following Tomar. She wasn't cutting her off. So a lot of those damaging shots, they were great, but she could have landed a lot more. So that was definitely a missed opportunity. But overall, it was definitely a great high output fight to kick off the night. And usually, I will say, you don't really hear the crowd that much until the second or third fight, until the fights start getting a little bit better. But the crowd was on instantly on the fight night. They were amazing. And honestly, when it does come down to this fight, I'm not very happy with the decision overall. I honestly had it 30-27 to dos Santos, mainly down to the volume and the overall damage that she was actually putting on. Yeah, I understand with the volume, she didn't actually, outstrike her, but just in terms of her aggression and her the shots that she was landing, I honestly had it to dos Santos, and you could pretty much hear the whole entire crowd did as well. And it's just annoying to see it, because you've got you had one 30-27 going one way, another 30-27 going the complete other way. So it's just a clear case of having that shitty judging continue from UFC 302. Moving on to Cody Stamann versus Taylor Lapilus. Now, Lapilus, he did a great job in the opposite stance, managing that distance, especially with that lead hand control. That was definitely the best thing he could have done with that reach advantage that he had. He had an 8.5 reach advantage, so 100% making sure that he can control Stamann's hand and set up that 2 was honestly the best thing he could have done. And by the second or third round, as he was doing it, he busted up Stamann's nose. Blood was pretty much all over the bottom half of his face. He just utilized the game plan that he should have very, very well. He was timing his knees very well when Cody would enter in for an exchange. And then on top of that, as I said in the predictions, he showed a very good takedown defense. Up until the last round, where he did get taken down once, but and I did say that his get-ups were a bit of a con in his game, that his get-ups aren't very good. But he managed it quite well. Cody didn't get that much control time overall in terms of that whole entire fight, considering the type of fighter he is. And Cody, honestly, he was just struggling so much to close the distance effectively because of those knees. Lapilus's timing was just completely on point. And I believe it was in the second or third, it was the spinning elbow that Lapilus landed. He was just doing such a good job of countering Stamann when he entered. Got the spinning elbow and just busted his nose. And overall, honestly, a very good win for Lapilus. And yeah, Cody just did not have the answers for him. Moving up to Eduarda Moura versus Denise Gomes. Now, Denise Gomes, she showed very, very good transitions, and just her defensive grappling overall was probably the best part of this fight. And Eduarda Moura just was not having a lick of having to stand on the feet. She shot 26 takedowns. She attempted 26 takedowns, and kudos to Gomes, she only landed 5. That means she stuffed 21 takedowns. And I think it's fair that, like, honestly, it's 100% fair that Gomes got the win. I don't think it should have been a split decision, to be honest. I had Moura for the win, and I think Gomes just played out the game plan perfectly. She reversed most of the positions and then landed the better shots on the feet. And Moura was gassed and still missed weight. Still missed weight by a pound. Obviously, not 4 pounds, so it's an improvement, but still, she needs to be making the weight regardless. And I think she needs to move up, and she needs to work on that striking. Moving up to John Castaneda versus Daniel Marcos. Marcos looked very confident in this fight, very composed, and he dictated the pace very well. He countered Castaneda with the 2 when he tried to pressure forward, and he was just chewing up with those leg kicks early in the fight. And yeah, he was just breaking Castaneda down in all departments of the game. His striking was just on point. He had a very, very good performance. But that sneaky head kick I was talking about in the predictions that Castaneda has, he landed it in the 3rd round, and he put Marcos on skates. So there was a bit of a scare towards the end of the fight. But yeah, Daniel Marcos had a fantastic win, looked extremely confident, and honestly, he could be getting a top 15 fight now. So overall, a fantastic win for Daniel Marcos. Moving on to Andrea Lee versus Montana De La Rosa. Another decision I do not agree with here. Don't know why it was a split decision. I don't know what these split decisions are about. Andrea Lee, she showed a very clean, well-rounded game. She reversed the positions well when she got taken down, and she landed the better combinations on the feet as well. And I believe it was the 1st round, she hit a very clean back fist, and that wobbled Montana De La Rosa. Lee didn't get held on the ground pretty much at all. There was barely any time, and I saw her taking the fight pretty convincingly, to be honest. You could edge the last round to De La Rosa for that control that she had. She had that 2 minutes and 9 seconds of control time, but I definitely just had Andrea Lee winning the fight on damage pretty much alone. I think she just had a much better fight on the feet. She outlanded her on the feet, was much more well-rounded, stuffed half the takedowns. I think that it was her fight to win. I think she got robbed. Moving on, Brad Katona versus Jesse Butler. Not a whole lot to say here, I don't think. Just, complete domination from Katona, as I really thought. And Butler will probably get cut pretty soon if he doesn't fight down in competition. As I said in the predictions, he's had it tough going into the UFC. You got Jim Miller, then you got Brad Katona. So much experience there. And Jesse Butler just hasn't found his footing in a division yet. And he seriously needs to drop down in that competition. He needs someone a lot easier. And when we look at this fight, Katona, honestly, he had fantastic top control, and he was very aware of Butler's movements when he was in Butler's guard. I think that was Butler's best chance of even just finding anything, but Katona, fully aware, and he landed some very nice ground and pound to finish it off. I honestly thought we were possibly going to get that TKO in that 3rd round when he started raining down elbows in half guard, but yeah, overall, I am a bit annoyed that he didn't get that finish. I think he was primed to get it. But yeah, just a very good fight for Katona to get back on track. Moving on to Charles Radtke versus Carlos Prates. Look, it was pretty even through the start of the 1st round. But when Prates got that read, that knee was so brutal. It either hit his liver, or it's broken a rib, or it's cracked his chest plate, like his sternum or something. Can't tell exactly where it landed, but it was just vicious. And Prates was just leaking confidence. Like, he grabbed the lead hand of Radtke and was just taunting him, and then just landed the knee pretty much straight afterwards. And I've never seen someone drop that hard from a liver shot in UFC history before. Honestly, it was just, he dropped straight down. There was no chance he was coming back. It was just a fantastic performance from Carlos Prates, and his striking is definitely going to be a problem at welterweight. And he did a very good job of stuffing the takedown attempts from Radtke. Radtke went for 0 for 2, and it's just a great statement win for Carlos Prates, and especially the fighting nerds. That gym is looking absolutely amazing at the moment. Moving up to the feature prelim, Thiago Moises versus Ludovit Klein. As I said, on the feet, Klein would just take over with the boxing, and that's what he did. He did boxing and the speed. Honestly, it just looked too much for Moises. Outlanded him, pretty much tripled his output, and he pretty much found his range and his reads immediately. He was landing the better shots, landed a crisp straight that hurt Moises pretty much right at the back end of the first round, I believe. And Moises just had to get it to the ground to get any form of success, but Klein's takedown defense was completely flawless, and Klein was the only one to get the takedown. So yeah, absolutely fantastic there. And Moises just didn't look super comfortable. And I will say though, he did a very good job being that fighter that has so much experience like himself. He did a very good job of keeping himself safe in terms of not getting finished. He got knocked down twice. And yeah, you take that away from it, but Ludovit Klein looks like a killer, especially moving up to the lightweight division. Undefeated at lightweight, looks fantastic. And honestly, he'll be hitting the rankings very, very soon. Moving on to the main card, Miguel Baeza versus Puja Soriano. Honestly, I will say, I did shit on this in the predictions. It was a bit more of an entertaining fight than I thought. Mainly just due to the absolute dominance from Soriano and just that output, 331 total strikes. It's also attributed to the low fight IQ from Baeza as well. He tried to get that toe hold for way too long, and honestly, kudos to Soriano for keeping up with the pace and getting the most ground and pound strikes in the UFC. Getting that total output within a single fight. That's honestly a fantastic achievement. And yeah, 30-25 decision, and I cannot argue with it. Honestly, Soriano did a fantastic job. Moving on, Julian Marquez versus Zachary Reyes. Cuban Missile Crisis got absolutely annihilated. Reyes just came back from his first loss, and he came back in absolutely no better way. He timed that uppercut beautifully, and that was after he lowered his guard with that roundhouse kick to the body. Reyes just looked so comfortable, so confident on the feet, especially coming back from the KO loss, the slam KO from Cody Brundage. And honestly, it's just an amazing performance for him and an amazing comeback overall. And then especially just getting that confidence back and moving through the division. It's just fantastic for him. Moving on to Bruno Ferreira versus Dustin Stoltzfus. To be fair, Stoltzfus was winning that first round. He was finding his shots very well on the counters, but he did look a bit labored after they had the grappling sequence. And after that, just an absolutely beautiful finish from Ferreira with that spinning elbow. Absolutely brutal. I'm surprised Stoltzfus didn't get flatlined. But especially just from before the spinning elbow, there was a lot of shots beforehand, and Stoltzfus just looked gassed. So I honestly thought he was just going to get knocked straight unconscious. And I was a little bit worried about Ferreira's speed at first. And I think some fighters up the division could give him a bit of trouble, especially that have that bigger speed advantage. Like, he's not going to fight him, but like Israel Adesanya or people like Sean Strickland that have the very quick jab, any of those advanced kickboxers, I think they're going to give him issues. And anyone that has, much longer reach or anything like that, I think those types of fighters are going to halt Ferreira's growth. But I think now with this fight and this win, I've said it before and I'll say it again, it's time to give him Roman Kopylov for that top 15 eliminator fight. Moving on, Raul Rosas Jr. versus Ricky Turcios. Amazing scrambles in this fight, as I was expecting, but man, if Rosas was one step closer on the glove touch, He 100% could have gotten chinned with that up kick straight up the middle. Turcios wanted him out of there, and very quick. Like, he was not having a bar of it. He wanted him gone, and the crowd absolutely hated him. There was, I believe it was "fuck Turcios" that was getting chanted like all throughout. I think it was the first round. They absolutely hated him with the chants, and to be fair, he almost did secure that rear naked choke against Rosas. It was looking fairly tight, and I thought he was honestly just going to get it from cranking the chin. But as soon as it got deeper into that second round, that transitional ability from Rosas just 100% took over in that fight. And it's, 100%. It's a great win. Just like Zachary Reyes, it's a very good win for Raul Rosas Jr. to get his confidence back, especially only being 19, coming off a loss against Christian Rodriguez, who was overweight in their fight. And now Rosas has that confidence back. He has a tough winner on his record as well. And he definitely got that fight. He's definitely going to get that fight at the Sphere next. Moving up to the co-main, Dominick Reyes versus Dustin Jacoby. Man, even though I had Jacoby winning this fight, I'm just so happy for Reyes, and that he's just gotten back in the winning column at least. And he looked good from start to finish. He was patient. He let Jacoby overextend, which I wouldn't have thought that Jacoby would actually do. Jacoby was getting a bit antsy, getting a bit restless. He wasn't as composed as he usually is. I would think it'd be the other way around. I thought Dom Reyes would be the one that would overextend, but he was extremely patient, let Jacoby overextend, and then he just let Jacoby hunt for the finish, and Dom Reyes just countered beautifully with that hook. And then the knee to follow it up was so nice as well. The moment that knee hit, it was done. And I really hope that this win gives Reyes more confidence, and that it will allow him to get on some form of streak again. And now's the time that he has to do it. He's 34 years old now, and it's obviously time for a fight that's higher up. And if Olberg loses, then we could possibly see that one. If Olberg does lose against Jamal Hill, that would be an interesting fight. And I mean, if Reyes can get past Olberg, then he's shooting straight back up. Moving on to the main event, Cannonier versus Nassourdine Imavov. A crucial win for Imavov, getting into that top 5 now, but I don't think the performance for him was overly impressive. It wasn't bad by any means, but I don't think it was that impressive, because I had Cannonier winning all 3 rounds before that 4th round, mainly down to Cannonier's activity and especially his clinch game. The clinch game was definitely allowing Cannonier to run away with the fight. I mean, he had 5 minutes more of control time than Imavov did. And I will say that Imavov's cardio was looking pretty good as the fight went on, because in the first round, between the first and the second round, he was puffing pretty hard, and I was thinking, okay, Jared Cannonier might get him out of here in the second or third round, but he must have caught a second wind. He looked very good, very composed, and after it switched to the third and went to the fourth, he looked very good. Imavov was really coming to life, especially in that 4th round where he obviously got the finish. But when we look at the finish, man, Jason Herzog, I'm being honest, I really do think that he is a good ref, and he makes very few mistakes. But as pretty much the whole MMA community is saying now, and I had Imavov winning, the fight was called way too early. Cannonier, yes, he had his equilibrium affected. He was on skates, but he still turned to face Imavov when he was backed against the cage and was still striking back. So at that point, we need to at least see a veteran, a durable veteran like Cannonier, who's 10-2 with KOs. He's only been finished twice. He hasn't been finished by submission either. You need to let someone like that at least drop. You know, like, let's take it back to Jared Cannonier versus Marvin Vettori. Jared Cannonier landed over 200 significant strikes on him. And you know, there was no call against Vettori there. And I bet you that there was no call against Vettori there because everyone knows that Vettori has a granite chin, and that's why it wasn't called. So what about Cannonier being so durable? Why doesn't that come into play, you know? And there are points in that Vettori fight where Vettori was on skates. He got wobbled badly. So I think, I do like Jason Herzog, but I do think it was a terrible decision. I do think that Imavov would have gotten the finish, but you just cannot cut the fight at that point when someone like Cannonier, who is 10-2 with KOs, has that power shot chance. You know, you can't cut it like that. You have to let them drop, especially at that high in the competition. You have to let them drop. I honestly do think so. But not taking anything away from Imavov, a great top 5 entry win for him, but it's definitely frustrating for Cannonier moving forward. And moving on to the Fight Card Awards, kicking it off with the fighter to watch, gotta give it to Carlos Prates. Prates, honestly, he just looked so composed, and he just looked like a different level compared to Radtke, which Radtke isn't bad himself. You know, before this, he was 2-0 in the UFC. And I think moving up the division, not many fighters are going to be able to surpass his striking capabilities in the welterweight division. I think Carlos Prates is honestly, I think he will build up to be one of the most deadly strikers in the welterweight division. Now, moving up to finish of the night, got to give it to Bruno Ferreira. It was very close between Bruno and Carlos. It was definitely good to see Bruno get tested, especially just like Zachary Reyes, seeing how he would come back from the first loss of his career to Ruziboyev, which was brutal. He got flatline KO'd, but the finish for Ferreira was honestly amazing. You know, he showed that he has got a Muay Thai based skill set as well, not just powerful hands. Obviously, he landed that beautiful spinning elbow. So, I mean, you know, it just makes him even more deadly. And moving to our third most eventful moment on the card, I'm giving it to Prates and his body shot. I don't think I have ever seen someone go down harder from a liver shot from that, to be honest. The closest one I can possibly think of is Giga Chikadze versus Cub Swanson, when Giga got his Giga kick to Cub Swanson's liver. But even then, Cub kind of backed down, like he was backing away, whereas Radtke, he just got shut down completely. He just dropped straight to the ground and he was just screaming. And when you look at Prates, honestly, the reach advantage when it comes to not only his arm, like his arm length, his normal reach, it's his leg reach as well. Honestly, having that in combination with his KO power and just his, you know, his Muay Thai game in general, he is 100% going to be a problem in that division. Moving to the second most eventful part of the card, Bruno with his spinning elbow. Just like KO of the night, honestly, it is really good to see Bruno come back from the finish loss and then face some adversity in this fight and then come back strong and get a highlight reel finish. And onto the best moment of the card, gotta give it to, honestly, Dom Reyes. I can't not make this number one. It's just great getting to see someone who was at the absolute top of the game, almost beating the GOAT of MMA, to then going on one of the most brutal KO loss streaks to now finding a win again. Honestly, I hope Dom Reyes can make something out of this and, you know, go on some form of win streak, or at least, you know, to the point where he can retire on top. And speaking of someone who was at the top of the game and got brutally finished, if you haven't already, check out my video on Luke Rockhold getting his redemption arc against Michael Bisping in their third fight and what he should do to end his career on the perfect note. I've just got it up on the screen here. If you want to see more MMA based content, please like, comment, subscribe, and I will catch you on the next one.